Well, hey there, friends. Good morning. It is 5:15 a.m. and we are about to get started. 5:17 a.m. I should say. We're going to get started on mobility. It is Thursday, March 13, day 444. Here we are. I hope you're doing well. I know I'm doing all right. Um, Today we're going to do mobility. We're going to chat about cardio strength training. Now we're just going to get started with the session. For those of you who are watching, my name is Toby. I am 41 years old, and I'm training to live an active, self-sufficient, and adventurous life. I do so by minding my sleep, minding what I eat, and showing up for some strength conditioning and mobility training. I try to sleep around 7 to 9 hours in a night. Last night was 7.5, so that's a good amount of sleep. For me, sometimes it's 6.5, which is minimum 6, really. Once in a while I get over 8, which is a great night. Eddie Spaghetti, thanks for dropping by and saying hi. I hope you're doing well where you're at in the world. I hope life is treating you well, that you're having a good day where you are, friend. And I appreciate you saying hi in chat. Sleep. Try to mind what I eat. I try to eat within my energy balance. So I try to eat 2,200 calories in a day, give or take. And I try to eat a lot of greens, a lot of vegetables wherever possible. I also try to eat 120 to 150 grams of protein in a day to help hit my protein goals, my health and my strength, my muscle building goals. Training, I show up every day for 30 minutes. I do strength training 3 times a week. I do conditioning training, strength conditioning training. We'll talk a bit about the differences there. So probably real strength training once a week, really focused. Combination of strength endurance most days, and on Sundays I also go out on runs. I do mobility trainings Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturday mornings to make sure I maintain that range of motion and keep moving. Beyond that, be moving well. Beyond that, I try to spend time with people I love and care about, do things that I enjoy, and generally try to live a stress-free life, which, because I am financially secure and have relatively little things to worry about, is easy. I think that is not the case for a lot of people, and I think that has an effect on our health and fitness, whether that's within your control or not. Remember that this is about the way I feel, not about the way I look. I want to feel fit, capable, and competent for life, and we'll talk a bit more about what that means throughout the stream. It is 5:20 a.m. Remember that we are good just the way we are. We've got to love ourselves before we can move on. It's the person we are today who's going to get us to where we want to be tomorrow. So regardless of our fitness goals, a bit of kindness will go a long way. And the only way to get anything done is by showing up and doing the work. So we're going to hit the timer, and we are going to get started. My Way Tay. Heard of? I have not heard of photobiomodulation, but sounds interesting. Thanks all of you for dropping by and saying hello. Mustafa, thanks for dropping by and saying hi. I hope you're doing well where you are in the world. And we're going to get started with some mobility. And we are going to be moving. I just realized I will still need to take off my ring. Because rings and weights don't go together very well. So, as we start today's mobility, just curious, since we're halfway through March, it's always a good point to check in with yourself. With 2/12 of the year and nearly 1/4 coming up, how are we doing on health and fitness in 2025? Do we feel we're doing all right? Do we feel we have more that we can be doing? Have we completely given up this year and trying to start again? Or is this the first time we're actually getting around to doing something for our health and fitness? And whichever it is, it's completely fine, because the only way to really approach this is to take it day by day and to look at habits and habit formation and what that means for the long term. Because whether we believe it or not, the current state of our fitness, our health and fitness, is a direct result of the current habits we have related to sleeping, eating, and exercising. So we can have this conversation in, I think, the view of whatever health outcomes we are experiencing, barring some conditions that we have little to no control over because they simply exist or come to exist in our bodies, are a result of the way we behave throughout the day, specifically whether or not we're getting enough sleep, because we've learned that that has all kind of beneficial effects if we are getting enough sleep, and if we are depriving ourselves of sleep, that has all kinds of detrimental effects on our health. We can look at how we eat and the impact nutrition has on our general health and fitness, where the more we eat beyond our energy balance or our energy expenditure throughout the day, the more weight, specifically fat mass, we begin to accumulate. And what that means is that we run the risk of becoming obese with all the health challenges that are associated with that extra mass that can be avoided. So we have a challenge there. And then there are the habits we have around movement, not even exercise. Exercise is one habit in the movement sphere, but it's also how our life is organized around movement. Do we sleep, sit in the car or train, sit at a desk, sit in the car or train, sit on the couch and sleep? Or do we have sufficient, by sufficient, I would say between 3 and 4 hours of actual movement in the course of a day? And then part of that 3 to 4 hours of movement could be 30 to 60 minutes of training. And I know you're thinking, well, where am I going to get 4 hours of movement into a day, right? I guess the days off or the weekends, that's easy because we have a bit more time. You can see me waking up early by necessity. It's not that I think everyone should be up at 5 a.m. to do a workout. Absolutely not. The point is that this is the hour that fits best in my life. And this is the hour that I can surely free up for some movement and exercise compared to other days, compared to other times of the day, because then we usually have commitments and responsibilities and demands, which is a part of adult life, I think. All right, so, just to check in where we are this year and where we'd like to go. We have a lot of time, not only this year, but also this life, right? Even if you're in your 60s or 70s, you can make changes that are going to help you be healthier and fitter for life, okay? You just need to be consistent in your efforts of sleeping well, eating well, and moving well over time. All right. So, now that being said, let's have that conversation about cardio and strength training, because I think it's an important conversation to have in the mix of all the things that we can do to be healthier. There's movement throughout the day. There's little walks going up and down flights of stairs, lifting things and moving or carrying them around. And then there are different modalities of training that we're going to talk about. So first, the big distinction, right? And we're going to talk specifically about the benefits of different kinds of training centered around cardiovascular training and strength training. Because you'll see that sometimes people think that it's an either-or question. And I think the thing that we need to realize is that for specific goals, i.e. running a marathon versus winning a powerlifting competition, it is probably an either-or question. But for general health and fitness, it's an and question, as in we should be doing cardiovascular work and we should be doing strength work. And I think generally we should be focused more on strength endurance and building a solid base with cardio and building muscles through strength rather than being too binary about it. But first, let's talk about the benefits of cardio training, because there are a couple. Compared to strength training, for example, cardio training is apparently somewhat better equipped or a better method to reduce the amount of visceral fat in our bodies. Visceral fat is a specific kind of fat, but fat stored in a specific place is maybe a better way to put it. It's that fat that gets stored around our muscles, around our organs. And now, maybe a little bit is not a big issue, but there's a point where this visceral fat creates inflammation and problems which impede or hinder the functioning of the organs and the body. So, one of the goals in reducing fat mass obviously is reducing that fat that is present around the organs in excess, because that will give you direct health benefits and outcomes, because you are then less likely to develop this kind of chronic inflammation and issues with your organs. So that should be noted as a good reason to include cardio in any kind of programming or regime. But there's more. I don't think it's the most important one, but it's definitely a benefit opposed to or compared to strength training. It's more effective in reducing that specific type of fat. Now, also, cardiovascular training, cardio training, endurance training improves our heart health, right? So it improves our vascular system and our heart, specifically the flexibility of it, because what happens over time is our heart and veins become a bit more rigid. That means they become a bit less effective. And the interesting thing about this is that you can reverse this process by exercising. So in other words, by investing in your cardiovascular health, you are going to find that your heart and veins function better. And because they function better, you're probably going to feel better. And there are certain types of diseases that you might be able to avoid entirely because you are keeping your heart and vascular system flexible and in good working order. It's a benefit of cardio training for sure. In a general sense, what you probably will notice best or quickest is that it will increase your aerobic capacity. So in other words, your ability to transport oxygen to where it's required to deliver output. And this is not something to sniff at in everyday life, even though maybe we're not as aware of it, but little efforts become easier. It becomes easier to walk up and down a flight of stairs. It becomes easier to stroll to the supermarket or to go for a long walk in nature, which has all kinds of benefits. It becomes easier to do little and big things around the house, and it helps you be a bit more self-sufficient because you are generally physically a bit more capable. All right. You also become slightly better at, or slightly more efficient in your energy use. So you increase your ability to produce energy by training the cardiovascular system, or through cardio training. You become more efficient in how you're able to create and sustain output over time. And these are all just incredibly valuable little things to know about cardiovascular training. So a lot of benefits there, right? There are also benefits to strength training. They are in a slightly different order, right? Because strength training is the best general way to put it, is that it is most functional for your general ability. Moving well, sitting and standing up, picking things up, hanging even though we don't do that, pulling ourselves up, being able to move freely without requiring assistance or aid is a big one, especially as we age. So, understanding that general strength resistance training, having a stronger muscular skeletal system, increasing our range of motion, increasing the load that we can comfortably move around, will, in our day-to-day, combine with that additional efficiency in how we produce energy and sustain energy output from the cardio training to give us more freedom in our day-to-day activities. All right? Strength is also predictive of our general health and mortality. Grip strength being used as a good predictor of where we are on that curve. And a loss of grip strength at any point in life is a poor indicator of health and longevity. So just keep that in mind, that through strength training and conditioning training, we can improve that strength and thus maintain that strength throughout life, which I think is a good thing if we want to be self-sufficient and adventurous and go out and do the things that we want to do on a daily basis. And of course, the big one about very targeted strength training is that it increases muscle size, muscle strength, so we have more muscle mass, which is important, especially for health and fitness as we age, because we naturally start to lose muscle mass, and that increased muscle mass obviously also comes with some improved strength, so we're able to do more, and that is important for the reasons outlined above a moment ago. All right, so we have that, right? Yeah? Now, from that we can simply draw the conclusion that both apparently are important for our health and fitness, but each is important for different health outcomes. And that's probably good to understand and realize as we try to figure out what kind of programming we want to do. In case you're watching this channel, what kind of program? I'm in North Carolina. Thanks a lot for dropping by from North Carolina. I appreciate that. I hope you have a good day there. I'm in Amsterdam. So we're halfway across the world from each other. But I appreciate you dropping by and saying hello. So both are important for different health outcomes. And in programming for general health and fitness, specifically at 41, right, there is no need for me to want to be an elite level athlete. However, if I want to maintain a certain level of health and fitness over the course of my life, it is important to get a bit of grounding in what different levels of fitness are and strive towards being in certain percentiles of physical ability in order to live the way I want to live, or be able to do the things that I want to do with reasonable training goals, as in I don't want to spend at this stage in my life 4 to 6 hours training and the rest of the day recovering. Can't afford to. One, I also do not feel that that is the best way for me to be spending my time. Maybe later in life I will be able to afford that luxury and have that time. But I think for now, this is going to be way more about finding the optimal within the 30 or so odd minutes that I can spare in the morning, and maybe even a bit more. Sometimes it becomes 45 or 60, to just work on general health and fitness. All right, so what are some things to think about when we're doing cardio? Well, there's different modalities in training cardio, strength and strength endurance, right? So we look at cardio first. There's the big difference between doing high intensity interval training, right, where you do short or prolonged bursts of output at a relatively high intensity, say around 80 or more than 80% of your heart rate. You rest and you do it again. You rest and you do it again. And then there is the steady state endurance training, where you train at less than 80% of your heart rate. I tend to go for 60 to 70%. Right? Sometimes even less. And you're just pushing yourself a little bit to keep up a pace that is slightly above leisurely strolling, but doing it over an extended period of time. So it's like a 1 hour run versus a 1 minute or 20-second burst of output. Now there are different time frames that we want to train in, but that might depend on your general fitness and goal. There's no ideal program for either, because depending on your fitness and what it takes to drive an adaptation or get better, you need to, I should put that, look into both and program them smartly and differently. And believe me, the HIIT sessions, rewarding but brutal, which is why once a week probably is more than enough for something like that. Just going to do some toe yoga in the mix here. Because our toes are important for us to actually be able to stand and keep our balance. So having a bit of control consciously over how they move, not a bad idea. You saw me do my wrists as well. I think toes are part of that equation, just like fingers are. All right, so cardio, a steady state or HIIT. You can do strength. You're focusing on that anaerobic energy system, right? You're going to be working with increased resistance, whether you're doing that with free weights or with machines or through isometrics. I think the benefits are, I don't want to say all the same, but similar in terms of building that strength, that muscle size. And probably the biggest differentiator here that you can make is whether you're doing compound movements or isolated movements, i.e. when we're isolating, we're picking that one muscle group. The machine is helping us really isolate that one muscle group. And we can then work on it specifically, or we are doing a compound exercise where we're engaging a chain of muscles, multiple muscles and systems in our body, growing strength in specific muscles, but also across that chain. So just different ways of looking at our strength training. And then there is the strength endurance type of training, which some people might describe as the most functional. I think there's some merit to that idea because the general day-to-day requirements probably require us to deliver some sort of output that is a combination of moving around at a specific pace and carrying some sort of load at a specific pace. So strength endurance compared to strength, probably the easiest differentiator is you're likely going to do more repetitions at a lighter weight, and where strength training seems to be an anaerobic exercise modality. Strength endurance, you're also teaching your muscles to utilize oxygen for sustained activity. So you're actually looking into how we're moving on to a bit of core, by the way. So we're looking into making sure that our muscles can do a lot of output over time. For example, the kettlebells, and I wouldn't say I'm super strong. I'm strong enough I can lift a bit more than my own body weight, both squat and deadlift. And pull up. And bench press. But there are people who do way more than that, or much stronger in absolute terms, than higher 1 rep max. So what I'm aiming for is to have that strength that when I go for a hike in the mountains, I am able to carry 15 kilos, 16 kilos on my back for 3 to 4 hours. That's the kind of strength endurance that I'm looking for. For example, when you do a contact sport like judo, right, you need to be strong, but you need to be able to deliver those bursts of energy throughout a 1 hour training session. It's on, off, on, off, on, off. Which it then helps if you have a broad cardiovascular base, as in you're able to run at a steady pace. It also helps if you have a high VO2 max, as in you have good capacity to deliver a burst of output. It helps if you are strong, as in the maximum weight that you are able to move is, I think, then quite useful. And then it also helps if you are able to move lighter loads. I'm just going to be walking around the mat here to get that loaded carry in. So you get lighter loads. But you can move them more frequently over extended periods of time. So it's a combination of all of that, right? And you can train for all of those specific modalities. I would say for life in general, the modality of strength endurance is probably going to give you the most bang for your buck. So hey, there we've had a slightly extended conversation about the benefits of different types of training. We talked about cardio training, strength, endurance training. And I hope that was useful. I know I found it useful in learning these things, and I think it's probably insightful and useful for you to know a little bit about these things as well. I'm going to do a normal plank. There we go. All right. Just stand one leg with the weight, trying to pull us down the opposite way. It's going to be 20 kilo. Just going to clean it. And we're going to try to balance ourselves. Challenge that core in a or 30 seconds. Really feel that abdomen and core working, trying to keep us upright one side and then the other side. As the weight tries to pull us in one direction. So those are my thoughts on the benefits of training and on where we can put our time and attention. But why don't you let me know what you're thinking, or your mind is on this topic. So I'd like to understand and learn. If you're watching, and for those of you who are watching, my name is Toby. I am 40 years old. I train to live an active, self-sufficient, and adventurous life. I do so by minding my sleep, minding what I eat, and showing up for different kinds of trainings on a daily basis. So usually some strength, endurance, Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Friday. Wednesday I try to do a bit heavier work. To get that muscle stimulation in. And Sundays I go for a run, 45, 60 minutes. It's more than enough for me at the moment. In terms of my goals, I think if I could add another 45-minute run at another point in the week and a 30-minute HIIT session, it might be a bit better, but that is not a